So I was going to open up this video with a clip from a horror game. You know the kind, you're walking down a dark hallway, something moves in the distance, the music stops playing, and you're just waiting for the inevitable jump scare. Except nothing happens. But then I realized it wouldn't work, because you're not in the mood to be scared right now. You're watching a YouTube video. When you load up a horror game, you already done something important before the game even has tried to scare you. You've told your brain to expect something scary. Every dark hallway could have something scary at the end of it.
Oh my.
Every weird sound can mean that something's behind you. Every door you open could possibly be where the game finally gets you. But when you clicked on this video, you weren't preparing to survive a horror game. You probably prepared to watch some idiot talk about one. And that's the entire point. Horror doesn't become scary when something happens. They become scary when they convince you something could. So if anticipation is what makes the hallway scary, what happens when the game finally shows you what's at the end of it? The fear of something. Well, it gets less scary, which sounds completely backwards. Humans like having control. The moment your brain actually gets a look on the threat, you gain something you didn't have before. Information. Think about the last horror games you played. The first time you hear the monster, scary. The first time you see the monster, scary. The 10th time the monster chases you because you keep on fucking up the same obstacle, yeah, not so much. It goes fear of the unknown, understanding, mechanics, and then the obstacle. At first you don't know what it is, then you understand the threat, then you learn how it works, and eventually you're not running away from a monster no more. You're dealing with a game mechanic, and Resident Evil 9 has a really good example of this. At the beginning of the game, Grace investigates the first building, and for a while the game basically refuses to do anything. You're walking through these tiny corridors, getting a little glimpse into the rooms because the doors are slightly opened. You don't know what's in the building, you don't know what the threat is, you don't even know what kind of horror game you're playing yet. And that's what makes it work. The game is still unpredictable. Later on, you wake up in the care center. The room you're in is lit. The hallway outside isn't. Great. You walk out and eventually find this. A dark hallway, and conveniently, a light switch. Now, the game actually hasn't told you something is down there, but come on, it's a horror game. Flick that shit. What the fuck? Oh, it's just a horse. And for a second, you relax. Your brain got an answer. There's nothing in this hallway. We're safe. Except now something else starts happening. You keep walking. Nothing happens. Another room, nothing. Another hallway, still nothing. And eventually the question isn't, is something going to happen? It is, why hasn't something happened yet? The waiting. Nothing happening is kind of building up a horror depth. Every corridor adds to it. Every harmless noise adds to it. Every fake out adds to it. Because you know this is a horror game. You know eventually it's going to do something, but you don't know when. And weirdly, the longer the game goes on, without scaring you, the more convinced you become that it's about to. Normally, finding nothing should make us feel safe. In real life, if you check in the closet and there's nothing there, that is a good thing. But this isn't real life. We're playing a horror game. And we talked about it earlier. Your brain has already been told something is going to happen. So if the monster isn't behind this door, your brain assumes it's possibly behind another door. It doesn't think, oh, I'm safe. It thinks, okay, so when is this going to happen? It goes, tension, walking down a hallway, noise, building up the atmosphere, door slowly opens, and normally jump scare. And that crashes the meter to 0. And that's something weird about jump scares. They're designed to scare you, but at the same time, they are the relief. You spend minutes waiting for something to happen. You build all of this tension. You want this game to scare you, instead of edging you constantly. And then the jump scare happens. You might shit yourself. You might get scared. You might be angry at the developer. You might experience a little bit of post-nut clarity. And then you relax. Because the thing you spent all that time waiting for already happened. And now the game has a problem. It has to make you scared again. The game worked so hard building that uncertainty, anticipation, tension, and then leading up to the scare. But now we've seen the monster, we know what it looks like, we know how it works, and we survived. How do the developer make something scary again once our brains understand it? And this is where I think a lot of horror games make a mistake. The game needs to scare you again, so it scares you again. Another jump scare, another chase, another monster. more noises, more shit happening. But giving the player more horror doesn't necessarily make the game more scary, because every time you show me what I'm supposed to be scared of makes me understand it a little bit better. And eventually something even worse happens. I start understanding the developer. Predictability. Learning how the monster works is one thing, but eventually you start learning something much worse. You learn how horror games work. In the beginning of a horror game, everything is unpredictable. A dark hallway could lead to anything. A suspicious noise could mean anything. A door could open up to anything. But later, you start seeing the strings. And once the players start predicting the developer instead of fearing the game, the horror starts falling apart. You're not walking up to a door thinking, what could be behind this? You're thinking, there's probably another jump scare behind this door. And those sound similar, but are completely different. The first one, you're inside horror. In the second, you're thinking about game design. The monster hasn't become predictable. The genre has. And now the developer has an even bigger problem, because we already know all the tricks. So how do you scare us? Breaking the pattern. It has to be the cycle. Fear of the unknown, understanding, predictability, expectations get broken into the fear of the unknown. And that's where nothing happening becomes such a powerful tool. Because nothing happening isn't automatically scary. I can play Farming Simulator for a couple of hours with nothing happening and probably sleep pretty well afterwards. It's the possibility that something could happen. An empty hallway isn't scary. An empty hallway in a horror game is. There's a difference. The hallway isn't doing anything. The monster isn't doing anything. The developer isn't doing anything. You're doing all the work for them. So maybe horror games isn't scary when nothing is happening, because nothing happening isn't scary. Waiting for something to happen is. A monster can only be as scary as you imagine it, until you actually see it. A jump scare lasts a second. A chase might last a minute. But if a game convinced you that one of those things could happen at any moment, it actually doesn't have to do anything. You scare yourself. A good horror game makes you scared of what's happening. A great horror game makes you scared of what might happen. And sometimes, the scariest thing a horror game can do is nothing.